4 months ago, I had an idea. I can make a language out of you. Then I proceeded to do absolutely nothing with it. Okay, so assuming I can get this released on time, this is my entry into the 4th cursed Conlang Circus. Now, this video might be a bit lower quality, even for my standards. As against my better judgment, I decided to still go ahead with the video, even though the deadline is in like a week. Why? Because I hate myself. So, what silly idea will I present to you all today? Behold, Safetylang, the language that might actually violate the Geneva Conventions. Yeah, I made a language based on safety datasheets. To speak it, you must first familiarize yourself with the NFPA 704 and GHS chemicals labeling guidelines. Done? Oh, so you don't want to slog through pages and pages of legalese concerning safety regulations? Nerd. Okay, I'll summarize it very quickly. NFPA 704 labels are these things. Also known as safety diamonds, they contain 3 scales from 0 to 4 for how much the chemical will ruin your day. Blue field is for health, red for flammability, yellow for instability. And there's also the extra spot for additional problems the compound can cause. So, this is water, this is ethanol, and this is something a chemist sees in their nightmares. It is also parts of words like USB or music, but we'll get to that. The GHS, or the Global Harmonization System, concerns these symbols. You've probably seen at least one of these in your life, but those are only the surface level. Underneath these symbols are hazard statements, which are way more specific, detailing things like routes of exposure or severity of danger, and the hazard statements are what the language is concerned with, not the symbols. Speakers of this language also differentiate things not accounted for by the hazard statements, like radioactive compounds, as well as biohazards of different biological safety levels, but that's just in the biochemistry dialect. So the equivalent of a phoneme in this language is a chemical substance that fits the right criteria, either with a safety diamond or its hazard statements. So, having established an equivalent of a phonetic inventory for this language, I wanted to come up with a bunch of words. But there's one small problem. Not all of these can actually exist. With NFPA, I just brute forced it. I opened basically every single website, PDF, or Excel sheet that I could find. I even learned the Wikipedia data scraping interface to get as much info as possible, and then I just listed which ones existed. I also decided that you can mix 2 substances to allow for more fire diamond combinations. The mixture's fire diamond takes the highest value for every parameter. The hazard statements were way more difficult. Right out of the bat, there's way more flavors, but a lot of them are just more severe versions of others, so I split them up into groups. Each phoneme can only have 1 hazard statement per group. Some of you might have already noticed problem 2. If something melts your skin, there's a high chance it's not going to play nice with your eyes either. But not all of these connections are obvious, and even if they were, there's still over 70 hazard statements to cross-reference, which would take way too much time. So at this point, like any normal person, I decided that this is just a joke language, and no one would even notice if I made stuff up. Yeah, no, I found this database, downloaded it in pieces because trying to do more than about 7,000 substances crashes the website, and wrote a program to do statistical analysis to see which hazard statements correlate with each other, and used that to generate my words. You may ask, how does the code work? Barely, but it did give me this pretty graph and this list of randomly generated words. Okay, so to sum up, a syllable in this language is made from 2 components. The safety diamond on the left, which can be made from up to 2 chemicals, and the hazard statement on the right, which can contain up to 3. This syllable is the actual name for the language, literally translating to communication in the specified language. And it can be made from these chemicals. No, I have no idea why it's shaped like a shameful hospital visit. Don't ask. Oh yeah, did I mention you speak this language just by pouring the substances into one big container, like you're a little girl at recess making a potion from whatever she can find lying around? And the other person understands what you're saying by moving on to the lexicon. This language has just under 7,000 words, which I think is probably one of the biggest lexicons in the circus. I have not checked, and I refuse to. There's a reason for this. All the words in this language are symbols described in ISO 7000, 7001, and 7010. I also included ISO 14617 because I didn't want it to feel left out. This also means the vocab has a few weird quirks. A lot of the verbs come pre-negated, most of the terms are highly technical, and the closest thing you can use to talk about feelings is the general concept of emojis. This is great if you want to say manually or electrically operated directional control valve with spring return in just one word, but it sucks if you're trying to translate a more abstract text. Oh, fuck. Okay, there's only a few important bits of grammar. Let's start with the fact that this language is agglutinative. Most of the affixes are based on the ISO standards I mentioned, but I did add a few for simplicity, like some of the case affixes. But to really understand how they work, we have to talk about valency. Not this valency, this one. Yeah, each word or affix has its own valency value, and also electronegativity score. And the most electronegative part of the word has to be stoichiometrically balanced with the rest of it. So the verb to smile is formed from the negation affix and the stem verb to not smile, like this. Now there are also valency changing operations. If you want to make a sentence passive, you just have to do a redox reaction and change the valency of the object and the subject. Oh, and for tense and aspect, you also have to change the valency of the verbs, which I'm sure is not going to be confusing at all. Speaking of verbs, this language has polypersonal agreement. The verb must have the right affixes to agree with the gender of the subject, object, and indirect object. Oh yeah, the nouns have genders, but they are really straightforward. It is based on what danger the noun poses, and there's a small, completely ordinary number of them. You just have to pick which one of the ISO 7010 warning signs best fit the noun. So a jellyfish belongs to the warning jellyfish gender, a dog belongs to the warning guard dog gender, the sun belongs to the warning optical radiation gender, and this construction, which means life, belongs to the gender warning automatic startup. Now let's take a closer look at this monstrosity, starting with this thing. So to use this language to communicate anything remotely useful to a regular person, you need to mangle the lexicon. And these are the torture implements. These affixes modify the meanings of the word they attach to in various ways. But on its own, this will often not be enough to say what you want. This is where the charge affixes come in. You can think of them as a construct state used to compound words and for denoting possession. So any word with an unmatched positive charge will link with the next possible word with unmatched negative charge, and vice versa. The last thing I'm going to cover is word order. And it's none of the SVO or VSO nonsense. Just like everything else in this language, the word order is safety first. If you prioritize the listener's safety, it would be polite to inform them of the things which pose them the most danger first. And since you're trying to communicate with them by waging chemical warfare, being polite is the least you can do. So to be grammatically correct, you need to say the words in order from the most to least dangerous. In this example, acid is the most dangerous, then falling, and then a rock is the least dangerous. Here's an example for you to practice at home. Okay, ready with your guesses? That's right, a baby comes first, because in the animal kingdom, man is
the most dangerous game.
Okay, I believe this is everything. Let's now move on to the required translation text.